mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington.
Hello, Mr. Gitu Yuwat. It's Wednesday, October 26th. This is Africa 54.
Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi becomes an intermediary in Chad's political crisis. Our profiles on the finalists in the first annual Digital Innovation Competition for Africa Startups continues with a look at Ghana's Frank Nana Addae. And in our technology report, we'll tell you how Ghana is bringing next-level artificial intelligence solutions to its farming sector.
It's day 2 of the first formal peace talks aimed at ending 2 years of war between the Ethiopian army and forces from the country's northern region of Tigray. At stake in the negotiations in South Africa is an opportunity to end a conflict that has killed thousands, displaced millions, and left hundreds of thousands on the brink of famine. The war is destabilizing the wider Horn of Africa region.
Peace talks, which have been convened to find a peaceful and sustainable solution to the devastating conflict in the Tigray region, started today, the 25th of October, and will end on the 30th of October. As a country committed to the African Union's objectives of silencing the guns, South Africa is ready to serve as a host and provide assistance to the peace talks.
The talks, mediated by the African Union, officially began Tuesday as the Ethiopian government made significant gains on the battlefield, capturing several large towns in Tigray over the past week. The government offensive, conducted jointly with allied troops from neighboring Eritrea, is raising concerns of further harm to civilians, leading African, U.S., European leaders and Pope Francis to call for a ceasefire. The conflict stems from grievances dating back to nearly 3 decades when the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a rebel movement turned political party, dominated Ethiopia's ruling coalition until 2018. After that coalition lost power at the national level, the TPLF, still powerful in its northern stronghold, fell out with the federal government led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. For an update on Ethiopia peace talks, I'm joined by Solomon Addae, VOA Horn of Africa Chief. Solomon, thank you for coming back to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me, Esther.
You know, there's not much coming out of the ongoing talks in South Africa, and I know you're the chief, and the VOA Horn of Africa is covering this story in depth. Do you have any update for us?
Esther, I wish I had something new to update you today. I have 4 reporters in Johannesburg and 3 reporters in Addis and 2 reporters in Mekelle. All eyes and ears are on these talks, and until now, all lips are tight on the negotiators' side. So we hope we will get something soon, but the good news is that the negotiations are underway. However, we are trying to listen to the will and wish of the Ethiopians about the entire situation on the ground and what they expect from Pretoria. Most of them are sick and tired of the war, Esther. It has been 24 months since this war began, and it's consuming a lot of what Ethiopia has. Its people, its moral, its resources. So most of those who spoke to want it to cease immediately, even though there are some who suggest that the war would continue until the end and call for TPLF to disarm.
So even as the talks continue, of course, closed doors and nothing much coming out of it, what are the expectations of the Ethiopian people out of these talks and for the country to move forward?
Ethiopians want to rebuild their country, as we hear from their own mouth, and they want peace again, and they want the talks succeed. That's what they are telling us. They want the negotiations, the talks went, in good faith on both parties, and stop the war, the immediate cessation of hostilities. The fighting is one of the demands from all sides, from almost everyone.
And yesterday you mentioned that even though the peace talks were going on in South Africa, that there was still fighting going on in Tigray. What is the situation like today?
Yeah, that is one erroneous thing that we are facing now. Peace talks are underway, as you've said, but the federal army is advancing in Tigray and capturing more towns, which were strongholds of TPLF. And as we hear from different sources, the fighting is severe, and there are people who have been displaced even now, and there are concerns, grave concerns from the international community that there might be potential atrocities committed in the region. However, the Ethiopian government is saying that they are trying, they are working to return the situation to normal and provide humanitarian assistance to those who are in need.
Wow, what a difficult situation again.
Washington is also pushing. Today, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken reiterated his support to the talks and urged all parties to discuss, to talk in good faith and for the immediate cessation of fighting.
Solomon, thank you so much for the update.
You are welcome, Addae.
Solomon Addae is VOA Horn of Africa Acting Chief. Now, at the Economic Community of Central African States Summit in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has been designated as a key facilitator in the transition process crisis engulfing Chad. The action comes 5 days after protests over the military's grip on power was suppressed with heavy violence. Africa 54's Paul Ndiho has more.
The 11-nation summit of Central African countries appointed DRC President Felix Tshisekedi as an intermediary in Chad's troubled political situation. Tshisekedi, in an opening speech to the summit, called last week's bloodshed a dramatic mistake.
The political crisis, which we believe to be engaged in the voice of its resolution, thanks to the consensus reached on the second phase of the transition following the historic meeting of national reconciliation and the refoundation of the Chadian state, is unfortunately revived.
The summit comes 5 days after clashes between Chadian police and protesters, in which 50 people died, including a dozen members of the security forces, according to the Chadian government. A Geneva-based NGO, the World Organization Against Torture, has given a provisional death toll of at least 80 in the capital N'Djamena and the southern towns. The protest violence comes on the heels of a national forum organized by Mahamat Idris Deby that extended his power. The 38-year-old five-star general took over in April 2021 after his father Idris Deby died in power after serving 3 decades. He was killed during an operation against rebels. Dyby's junta initially declared it would restore civilian rule after 18 months in power, and he had also promised not to participate in the next elections. However, as this deadline neared, a nationwide forum staged by Deby reset the clock, and on October 1st, 2022, the forum approved a new maximum 24 months time frame to hold elections. The forum named Addae as a transitional president and declared he could be a candidate in the poll. Addae was sworn in on October 10, 2022, and he later appointed a so-called government of national unity headed by Saleh Kesbo, a 75-year-old former journalist and one-time opposition figure. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
The U.S. State Department is authorizing the departure of non-emergency U.S. government employees and their families from Nigeria due to a heightened risk of terrorist attacks in the country. The latest travel update comes after the United States and the United Kingdom warned on Sunday of a possible terrorist attack in Abuja, especially aimed at government buildings, places of worship, and schools, among other targets. More than 1 million people have been displaced by the catastrophic flooding that has swept across Nigeria. Now living in makeshift camps, many say they are facing a new struggle, a lack of food. Angela Ukomadu reports.
Nigerian farmer Gideon George faces another night's sleep on an empty stomach. His priority is feeding his 4 young children. But life in the makeshift camp where he now lives after his home was flooded is hard. He says there is not enough food to go around.
It is that little food the children was eating that I was hoping on. But now they have rushed it. So now they have rushed it. You see that they did not even eat like people who are bellyful. They eat like people who need more. So like a father I am. So I cannot go and put some there. So I allow them to eat. I will sleep like that, sir. I will sleep like that.
For George, his nightmare began at 2 a.m. on October 8, when his wife shook him awake as flood waters poured into his family home. Grabbing their children, they ran for their lives.
Have no choice of saying we are not going to stay here, because what we see is above us. Because the flood we see, since I was born, I have never seen that kind of flood. The flood comes with speed. Carry snake, and he carry a lot of animals.
The family now live in a makeshift camp at a secondary school building in Rivers State, one of the 32 Nigerian states hit by catastrophic floods. About 600 people live in the camp in the school building, which is located in the village of Ogbogu. They rely on food donations from individuals, oil companies that operate in the area, and local authorities. But there is not always enough to satisfy everyone. Nor is there space in all of the makeshift camps that have sprung up. In the nearby village of Obagi, farmer Anthony Nnadi is trying to salvage items from his flooded home.
This water confused us. It confused me, made me, I always forget what I was supposed to do, because my heart is not at peace. My heart is troubled.
He says he and those who remained in the village were sleeping outdoors as there is no room in any of the camps. The floods have killed more than 600 people, displaced around 1.4 million, and destroyed hundreds of thousands of hectares of farmland across Nigeria. The government has blamed them on heavy rain and a water release from a dam in neighboring Cameroon. Experts say climate change is a factor, while defective infrastructure and poor planning had worsened the disaster. Back in Ogbogu, George says he feels hopeless about his future. It isn't just his home the floods have destroyed, but also his livelihood.
This is my own, because I don't have farmland. Even when flood is over, I know that there is no money now I can use now to buy something to eat. So I know that there is war ahead of me.
Angela Ukomadu of Reuters filed that report. A new report by the global humanitarian organization World Vision says skyrocketing food prices are contributing to the global hunger crisis affecting children who are at the risk of death. World Vision's research found a sharp rise in food prices in some countries like Sudan that has a 143% increase in food price in 2021. In an interview with VOA's John Tanza, host and managing editor of the South Sudan radio program, World Vision policy advisor Hannah Chagin said Sudan's food situation is dire.
We just recently put out a report called our Price Shocks Report. And basically, in addition to evaluating these drivers that I talked about before, it looks at specific countries to see how much the cost of a common food basket has increased in the past year. And in Sudan, that was one of the most staggering increases with 143%. And again, that's a result of the compounding factors that I described earlier. And we found that it takes about 9 days to earn enough money to purchase a food basket in Sudan compared to 1.2 hours for the same food basket in the United States. So our report is really the average of the cost of the food basket across the country, but there are data points and reports that indicate, again, that the highest cost for a local food basket in Sudan was recorded in South and East Darfur, followed by the Blue Nile State.
That was VOA's John Tanza, host and managing editor of the South Sudan radio program, speaking to Hannah Chagin, a policy advisor at World Vision. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come in our tech report, we'll tell you how Ghana is bringing next-level artificial intelligence solutions to its farming sector. But first, Addae Adams tells us what's on tap for Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, the war in Ethiopia began 2 years ago, and it's continuing with a severe humanitarian crisis unfolding in and around Ethiopia's Tigray, Amhara, and Afar regions. Why isn't this crisis garnering more international attention? African Union-sponsored peace talks are underway in South Africa, but what is the path to peace for the region? Join me, Addae Adams, for an in-depth look at the Ethiopia-Tigray war on the next Straight Talk Africa.
Research is on for Africa's best and brightest minds in finance, cybersecurity, technology, and anything digital, making social impact through cutting-edge technologies, innovation, and creativity in Africa. Out of 17,000 candidates from 50 countries in North, Central, East, West, and Southern Africa, only 3 will be selected from the top 10 continental finalists from Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Cameroon. Join the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and its prestigious partners, including the Voice of America, when the 3 finalists are featured at the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit in December 2022 in Washington. Stay tuned.
In other African news, an Algerian court has jailed a journalist convicted of spreading false news in an article about dates being allegedly tainted with banned pesticides. Belkacem Wam has been handed 1-year prison sentence, most of it suspended, but he is expected to spend at least 2 months behind bars. The United Nations says the humanitarian response to the crisis in Somalia, where historic drought is threatening famine, is gaining steam, but warns the situation remains very dire. And in Burkina Faso, new Prime Minister Apollinaire Kiralam has unveiled his government. He says it's composed of 23 ministers, 2 of them, the defense minister and the territorial administration minister, are military officers. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce's U.S. Africa Business Center is convening its first annual Africa Digital Innovation Competition for African startups. VOA is working as a media partner with the Africa Business Center on this initiative. The top 10 finalists have been selected, and we're bringing you a look at each one. Today, we're highlighting Ghana's Frank Nana Addae, whose startup, Shopper, created a platform that assists manufacturers with prompt delivery of goods and offers financial services to help business owners maintain a revolving line of credit to expand their revenue.
is Addae, 29 years of age. I'm currently one of the co-founders and CEO of Shopper, a B2B e-commerce business here in Africa. Part of the reason why we applied to the US Chamber of Commerce African Business Unit is for us to get the needed support and the needed resources we need to be able to digitize the informal retail space here in Africa. Being part of the top 10 is the validation that we need. It gives us the confidence to be able to convince ourselves that we're actually onto something big, and we can't wait to be able to see the change we want to see in the industry. Shopper is digitizing the informal retail space here in Africa by connecting manufacturers of fast-moving consumer goods to informal retailers through our micro-distribution centers. So Shopper's platform allows these retailers to be able to, one, source inventory directly from manufacturers or suppliers through our micro-distribution centers and have it delivered to their shop within 4 hours. They also get to access credit facility on our platform in a form of working capital financing to be able to grow their business, and also other financial services such as insurance. An example will be when we launched our business in 2020, one retailer, prior to the introduction of our credit, used to place an order on average between $11 on a weekly basis. But after we introduced our credits over time, she's been able to move from $11 on a weekly basis to now $150 in terms of order size. Now this is the growth we want to see on the lives of these informal retailers by moving from a small shop to a medium shop. Winning this challenge is going to be a game changer for us because we are going to have access to the right resources, the right mentorship, and the right partners to be able to grow our business. Winning this challenge is going to ensure that we have enough resources to be able to escalate the credit offering and also be able to escalate our credit offerings by expanding to new areas and also tapping into the expertise the US Chamber of Commerce would make available to us for us to be able to build the solution we want to build.
Tomorrow, be sure to join us when we profile Nigeria's Olugbenga Ogunbowale and his startup Grandmaster. It's time for a technology report, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Have you ever thought about smart farming or using artificial intelligence-powered robots to take your farm management to the next level with AI solutions? Or perhaps leverage AI to drive efficiency and growth to your farm? Well, in Ghana, 3 Farmiter Robotics is bringing these technology solutions to their farming sector using cutting-edge AI and locally made robots to boost crop production and increase profits. For more, I spoke to Clinton Anani, the founder and CEO of 3 Farmiter Robotics in Accra, Ghana. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You are leveraging technology to empower farmers in Ghana. Let's start there. What have you been able to do?
Here in Ghana, or the African continent at large, our biggest backbone is the agricultural sector, right? And we have to be able to build solutions that can help us maximize the full potential. And now with technology, we're able to build those solutions and provide real tools that can help farmers to increase productivity.
You're coming up with robots that are going to the farms, that are trying to look at what the farmers are doing and giving them real-time solutions. Yes. Are you in a position to name some of those things that you've been able to do?
We have tools for farmers, right? And that's our main mission, to be able to provide farmers with the right tools to improve their productivity and throughput on the farmlands. So we have our seed planting robots. It's able to plant seeds autonomously. It runs on battery technology, and we charge those batteries via solar. And so we are very conscious of climate change. We are contributing to green technology, right? And so having our robots being able to work without any human intervention is something that we see to be able to give the the farmer the chance to tap into the full potential of the land. Aside the robots, we also have our crop disease analysis platform that is able to, the farmer is able to take a picture of an infected plant, and then the system analyzes and recommends a solution as to what to do towards the disease. So if, for example, it's black rot or black measles that have been detected, our system is able to say, okay, these are the recommended solutions from experts.
Most farmers in Ghana or across Africa are subsistence farmers, but the kind of technology you're talking about is maybe comes in handy when it comes to commercial farming, right?
Yeah.
So have you been able to maybe to tap into a little bit of both?
When you're talking about robotics, it's often just a term of education, right? Getting people to know about robotics, but it being an actual industrial solution, it's something that it's not very common. That being said, we have challenges as in getting access to components and sometimes to access to talent, right? But these are challenges that we've faced, and we've been able to derive solutions for them. And so our solutions are geared towards smallholder farmers as well as crop production companies. So we do understand that our system sometimes can be expensive, but we are working on partner solutions that would help us communicate some of our services directly to the farmers at absolutely reduced costs. So through modularity, we are able to have reduced costs for our services, where we basically have one robot that can perform multiple tasks.
When you have deployed this technology to some of these farmers, they use it, what kind of feedback do you get from them? And is it providing the right solutions that these farmers are looking for?
Yes, so in terms of the solution, we strongly believe it's the right solution, but for early technologies such as ours, there is always slow adoption, right? And so our current partners are crop production companies whose mission is to be able to work with the best of technology available to improve their productivity. And so we are working with Green Gold Farms and then Farmer Ghana to offer our solutions to them. These are people who are much more open-minded to the potential of technology in the agricultural space. And so our strategy right now is to work with them closely, offer our services to them. And once we are able to showcase to the rest of the world that this is the full potential of our robotic systems, then we can take it down to the smallholder farmers and say, hey, look, the big guys are playing with our toys. How much more you guys, right? So it's still a strategic thing, but running the pilot programs is giving us enough information to ascertain that our solutions are ideal. But so far, all of our partners are showing positive feedback.
Earlier, you talked about how Elon Musk inspires you.
Yeah.
I see in you a version of Elon Musk, a young Elon Musk in the making.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Same here, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Clinton Anani is the founder and CEO of 3 Farmiter Robotics based in Accra, Ghana. And that's today's Tech Report. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Paul, and that's our show for today. Have a good evening.